I'm Lewis, and I'm an addict. People ask me why I do service, and the short answer I give is tell them that it keeps me clean, which it certainly does, helps me stay clean. But the other reason why I do service is to meet people that I don't ordinarily get a chance to meet. I met the speaker at the World Service Conference in 2004, I think it was, and we were both in the peanut gallery. He was the RDA alternate, second RD from Alabama, Northwest Florida, and I was just on my own. And then the next conference, we both happened to be RDs. I was of Chicagoland, and he was of Alabama, Northwest Florida, and we, reestablished our friendship there. And then after the conference was over on Sunday, we realized that we both had flights in the late afternoon and late in the evening, and I had a car. So I drove Greg and spent the afternoon with him to the airport, and we started a conversation that we've never finished. And we've done a lot together. I've been to his places in Birmingham and Atlanta, and now I haven't been to Chattanooga yet, but this is the first vision I've seen of his new Chattanooga digs. And he's been to Chicago several times, and it's just, and we've talked, so often over the years, and I'm just so grateful that he's in my life. And last time I heard him speak was at the World Convention in Orlando, and he thought he did a terrible job, and I actually demonstrated to him how good it was. So he's real good, and I'm really delighted to turn it over to my dear friend Greg.
Thanks, Lewis. Can everybody hear me? Just wave if you can. Okay, cool. Yeah, I won't bury the lead. I thought about doing that, but Lewis just said it. I mean, it's one of the main reasons I've got service work are the relationships. I try to go on, and there's like 7 or 8 people in the meeting right now that I've known from over the years. And so, yeah, it's great to see some people that I haven't talked to, in a long, long time. So, but then the other thing about service, which, being part of our program, is that it's taught me how to live. And when we come in here, when I came in here, I like to say we, but when I came in here, I was pretty much broken. I mean, there's a line in the basic text that says, I lived at the animal level. And you had the solution for me that I needed. So this is really about my journey. And when I was told to talk about service work and gratitude, it just kind of rang true for me about what I like to talk about when I get into this. But, this is a program of self-discovery. From the very beginning, when I showed up in the meetings, at one point in time, you took me by the hand and said, hey, you need to come to the area or to the group meeting. And, that's something that I needed. I needed structure in my life. So I came to the group meeting, I sat in the back, I listened, I thought there was something magical about it. And little by little, I got drawn into it. I studied what we were talking about. I got stepped up and got elected to, positions, treasurer, secretary, those kinds of things. And we really worked in that group that I was in. We really worked hard on, some of the basics. And it was somewhat dysfunctional, but I learned quite a lot from the different, members at that time. And some of the things, that's what I'm going to share about, is that, I learned one thing that was important was that the GSR carried our voice, and that, that was, while you might have a function like being the secretary, but the GSR was the person that was the link between the group and the next level of service at area. And that all of the RCMs and RDs and all that was just that link between the group and the individual and the groups and the next level service. And then they brought back, the things that we decided on. And I thought it was great for me because it gave me some structure, and it gave me a good understanding of how that I can make a difference. My one opinion, my one vote, whatever, I felt, it made that it could make a difference. They also taught me that the bitter thing, or the kind of hard thing for me to grasp, being who I was this was God's meeting. It wasn't my meeting. And I remember us talking about that. It sunk in after a while, but and I started thinking about this as I went through, and I've gone through service. I came up with some rules that I try to live by. The first one was that to think for myself, or to think for yourself. And what I found was that, after I served there as a GSR, and did work at my home group and was going to the area, I realized that there was something wrong. At least I thought that there was. I got to service work because of resentments, basically. And that was a key for me. I remember being in my first ASC meeting, and I thought, oh, this is the RCM, and they're going to the region. And, it was like, oh, wow, they must have their shit together. And the guy, when it was called upon, this guy stands up and he says, yeah, I went to the regional meeting. He had a big envelope that hadn't been opened. He said, here is the minutes from the meeting. He threw them on the table. He said, we didn't do nothing at region, and if you want to read them, the minutes, there they are. And he said, and then he said in the next breath, yeah, I spent about $280, so that's what I'm gonna be. And it hit me, it's like, what? I had this expectation, this hope there was something where we made a difference. And that was, I walked away and I thought, no, this can't be right. And so I used that resentment to get into service work, and to just, because I always wanted to know more. I wasn't somebody that would take what you taught me, or the lessons that came about, as gospel. And I had to learn things on my own. So what happened was that at the area, after I had been there for some period of time, they said, maybe we should nominate you and send you to the region. And that's the first one of the other rules I learned, is that, when I have a nomination, it comes from my home group, and it goes to the area, and then, through the processes. For me, and what I learned through this, though, was that, the service was great, but I had to work steps, because the more I got involved, the more this was challenging who I was. Again, this program was self-discovery, and you kept on giving me more and more things to do, and I wanted to be really good. So one of my weaknesses and strengths is I'm a perfectionist. I'm sure nobody else is. But the reason for that, and the other area that I have to look at in my steps, is that's control. There's that aspect of control. If you'd have grown up in the circumstances that I did, which I know a lot of people have, that was, control was the way that I protected myself. So, I remember being at the area meeting, and I thought that, again, that this was something where the magic happened. And I remember going out after the meeting was over in the parking lot, and there was a fight. And I could remember them screaming at each other about, what do you mean disrespecting the steps? And I would go away from this and I go, oh gosh, my chest would hurt, because I wanted that. It's not supposed to be like this. We're supposed to be, exercising some of the principles that I'd learned. So, and really what it came from was just people just like me. I learned some compassion after a period of time, about what, for myself and then for others. So, one of my third rules is a pretty major rule, is that time in recovery and years of service were not as important as I would have you think. I've seen, and I've done it myself, talked about, this is the way we did it in the past, and it didn't work this way. We should, we can't do it that way. And, and then I got all this clean time, or I've done all these service positions. And after a period of time, I realized, working my steps, realized that this is me trying to control. And the more that I grasped for control, the more it slipped away from me. You know, that's one thing that I've learned to do is to step back and let people be where they are. Um, I remember, and from that, I remember being in some meetings, and I had some sponsees in the meetings, and we would be talking about a motion or a CBD, consensus-based decision, not CBD. But I remember how that if I would argue a point and then we would come to a vote, my sponsees they would vote like I would. And I realized, this is wrong. This is violating this other rule of thinking for yourself. And so I got to the point where when there was something voted on, I would wait to the very end, and these people be looking at me, and sometimes I wouldn't even vote, or I would sit in the back where people couldn't see me, or I'd even argue the opposite of the way that I was going to vote. And I got in long arguments with, the fact that why are you arguing the opposite of the thing way you're going to vote? And for me, is that I don't want to be in charge. When I am, that's very that there's it can get out of control. I've learned to be collaborative more in my life. And when I am, and when I'm of that, service type of leadership that I find myself in from time to time, it really pays off. More and more people, we get more things done. The other major rule I've got is that when I would go into the meetings and uh, when I was a facilitator, or not a facilitator, but like a treasurer or policy chair or any of these other roles, I got to the place where I realized that it is important. My rule is that I do my job, stand up in the meeting, give a report, and I sit down and I shut up. And that's huge for me because I can remember being the secretary and trying to take the notes and trying to help run the meeting and then have an opinion on everything. Because that's me, is I can have an opinion on everything. And if I do, then I screw up. Um, Usually I found that after a period of time, I found that if I have to express my opinion more than one time, it's about me and it's not about service or the fellowship. It goes back to that control, that perfectionism. I've backed away from service now for a little period of time. Again, I made a transition. I've just actually moved to Tennessee. Um, One of the other things that I've learned about service work is that the person carrying the voice of the group is the most important person in the room. And I've kind of preached that before when I've been on the ASC or the RSC, and then I practice the trying to keep my mouth shut and trying to keep out of the middle of controlling things. The main thing I remember they taught me from early on, and I love to remember this, is that service is about doing something for someone without them ever knowing it. That's the humility that I had to learn. It's not about what I'm trying to get accomplished. It's working with you and working for the betterment of our of NA. Remember, there's something we all have heard before. It's anonymity. It always blew my mind when I heard people talk about, oh, I served on this committee back in the day, and I did this at World, or I wrote this piece of literature. And I thought, is that self-aggrandizement? I can get into the judgmentalness too. That's another one of those character defects I exercise. But if I can exercise some of the anonymity, then I'm better off. Um, I guess the thing about the biggest what I've learned and how I'm grateful is what I've learned over a period of time. Now, I've held positions from group, area, region, zone, and even at participated at some World Service type of level of work, and it all applies. It all applies because it actually comes back to me and how humble I can be and try to exercise that humility and try to serve you. I actually at one point in time, and it came up to me this way, is that I was elected. I was very fortunate, and was elected as on the human resource panel. And I remember being in the risers after the election was over, and several people came up, patted me on the back. Of course, it was pins and needles, agony. It was excruciating. Then, the voting and all that. And, I was keeping my mouth shut. And a few people asked me some things. But I remember after it was over that when the room started clearing out after the vote, and I was sitting there by myself, and I thought, is this it? Is this it? I'm supposed to have hit this pinnacle. And suddenly I realized, this is one of those areas I really need to look at. Why am I doing this? And I thought there was going to be something that, I would elevate, lift me up on angel's wings or something. And then I realized after a period of time, after serving and going back and forth to California, and I go into meetings and I would be amongst addicts that didn't know me. And because I traveled some, and I remembered, you know what? I'm serving every one of these people in here, and they don't even know me. And that had a big effect on me. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about me becoming something. And that's what I always wanted, because that was what was missing. I was missing early on in life, and I was damaged pretty bad. But this is the thing that the program's taught me. It's taught me what I've learned is patience. And these are hard-won lessons, of course, but patience is one of the areas that I have had to work really hard on. It's taught me some work ethic too. I've been able to work really hard by, and carry out things like being the treasurer and, using QuickBooks and teaching other people how to do that, or sitting in meetings and trying to apply some of these principles and things like this over these years. Taught me some organizational skills, and that's been, I'm pretty much, process mindset and perfectionist, and that came kind of with my DNA, but I was able to apply those things in this type of environment. And it's, and at best, the best state that I can try to achieve, around you is that state of humility. That comes at a big price. My gratitude is basically around this, is that there's my time running over, you guys, but several years ago, my job ended, and I'd been in corporate America, and I was lost because I had been, as a workaholic, I had worked very hard through my corporate life. And so I did some travel, and I got back and I got involved in another nonprofit that helps homeless kids. And I got elected to their board of directors. And I'm the first person elected to their board of directors ever had a substance abuse problem. And I bring that voice back to the organization. Not long after that, they hired me on as their national executive director, which is equivalent to the CEO. Right now, I am in an organization and making the impact where there are 4.2, and it's around homeless youth. And there are about 4.2 million homeless youth, people couch surfing all the way to people that are kids that are on the street. And about half of them have substance abuse problems. That's, to me, this is the whole cherry, the icing on the cake for me, is that if all the things I had done in the past, I hadn't done them through the service work in NA, I wouldn't have found myself in a place today where I can affect other people that haven't even made it into the rooms. Service work, though, to me is a cautionary tale, because at one point in time, I put too much of my time and effort into service work and didn't work on my steps. And if I'm out of balance there, I can hide behind service. I can hide from my recovery behind service. I'm grateful for, and that's it. That's what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for what you've taught me. It's been a laboratory experiment at times. You put up with me, and I've helped some other, guys that I sponsor along the way, and things that, I've been able to give back. And And again, you know, one of the greatest things is meeting and meeting people like Lewis. I saw Adam. I met Chris a long time ago. Craig, I know Craig. You know, so Harper. You know, all you folks. And so anyway, with that, I'm out of here. I appreciate it. Everybody stay safe.
Thank you, Greg.